So, COP30 in Berlin, Brazil just finished up. And you know what? The big story here isn't just more promises, it's an actual concrete blueprint for getting things done. So, today we're going to break down the three critical pillars that came out of this thing, the plans that are supposed to finally turn climate goals into reality. You see, COP3 was meant to be a real turning point. The whole idea was to stop talking about the ambitious goals from the Paris Agreement and start translating them into actual real-world strategies. And to do that, you had to get everyone in the same room, right? We're talking the UN, UN Habitat, the Brazilian government. Everybody had to be there to hammer out a single united path forward. And you know, the whole summit was guided by this really cool Brazilian idea, mutirão. What it means is basically a collective, self-organized push for the common good. The best way to think about it is like a community getting together to raise a barn, but, on a global scale. This whole concept, this idea of shared work and helping each other out, it really was the foundation for everything else they agreed on. Okay, so what did all this mutirão spirit actually lead to? Well, it all boils down to three key action plans. They're distinct, but they're all connected. We're going to walk through each one. First, what we're doing for our cities, then how we're reinventing our industries, and finally, something really crucial, how we defend the truth itself. All right, let's dive into the first one, greening our cities. This is a big one. More than half the world's population lives in cities, which means they are pretty much ground zero in the climate battle. Seriously, this is where the fight will be won or lost. So here's the problem in a nutshell. Our cities are right on the front line. I mean, they're a huge source of emissions, but at the same time, they're also super vulnerable to climate impacts, like crazy heat waves and flooding. It's a real double-edged sword. And the big agreement at COP30 was that there's just no way we can hit the Paris Agreement's goals without real, deep cooperation between national governments and the cities themselves, where people actually live and work. So to tackle this head-on, leaders came up with a really concrete 8-point urban action plan. And this isn't just more talk, it's about real action. For instance, and this is a big deal, the plan makes a dedicated meeting on cities a permanent thing at all future COPs. That gives cities a real seat at the table, finally. It also makes a commitment to get climate finance flowing directly to local city projects. That means empowering local leaders to build greener, more resilient communities literally from the ground up. Okay, let's move on to the second pillar, and this one's another huge challenge, reinventing our industries. Look, the Belém Declaration is super blunt about this. If we don't get deep emissions cuts from heavy industry, we're talking steel, cement, the big stuff, there's just no way we meet our climate goals. It's that simple. It's a hard truth, right? The very backbone of our modern economy is also one of the biggest sources of emissions. It just has to change. But, and this is so important, here's the key principle for how we make that change happen. It can't just be about fancy new tech. It has to be about justice. The Belém Declaration is really clear on this. This green industrial revolution has to empower developing nations and local communities. It can't leave them behind. It's all about creating good jobs and strong economies for everyone, especially in the global south. So how do they plan to do that? Well, they've laid out a 4-part strategy for global collaboration. First step, get the money and the technical help flowing to speed things up. Second, share all the tools and know-how so policymakers know what works. Third, work together to co-develop new green technologies on a global scale. And finally, the fourth step, help countries build up their own ability to actually put these policies into action. I mean, this is mutirão in action, just on a massive industrial scale. All right, that brings us to our third and final pillar, and honestly, this might be the most foundational one of all. Defending the truth, the information challenge. I mean, think about it. What good are the best plans in the world for our cities and industries if the public conversation is just poisoned by lies and misinformation? When you have good, solid information, you get trust, you get progress, you get people participating. But when that information is polluted with junk, you get mistrust, confusion, and delay. And delay is something we absolutely cannot afford right now. So, to fight back against this, world leaders got behind something called the Declaration on Information Integrity. The whole point is to protect our public debate and to build a solid foundation of trust in climate science. It's about making sure that the huge decisions we have to make are based on facts, not on fiction. And again, this isn't just on one group. It's a shared responsibility. The declaration calls on governments to step up and protect journalists and make sure public data is accessible. It tells the private sector, hey, you've got to be transparent and responsible with your advertising. And it pushes civil society and academics to make information integrity a core part of their work. The message is clear. everyone has a role to play in defending the truth. Okay, so after all the meetings, all the handshakes, all the declarations, where does that leave us? What's the real path forward from COP30? Well, it leaves us with these three really clear, actionable pillars. One, sustainable cities, empowering local leaders with money and a seat at the table. Two, a green industry built on a just global collaboration. And three, holding it all together, information integrity, defending the truth so we can actually get things done. And these aren't just separate ideas, they're a single, unified strategy for action. So, the blueprint from COP30 is on the table. The plans for our cities, for our industries, for our information, they're all laid out. The only question left is the one that started the whole thing, the question at the heart of Mutiran. Is our collective effort, our global community barn raising, going to be strong enough to actually build this future? I guess that's the challenge for all of us now, isn't it?